Well, whoa, we're feeding back in the room. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. How we doing?
I'm doing mostly good. Doing mostly good. Trying to uh, pace myself today.
Well, you don't want to burn everything up in the first
In the first-
you
first half.
First half,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
you're all shot.
Right,
You
so-
can't use it up all before the meeting and
We got
before the
we had
3 o'clock.
staff meetings today.
Yes.
We had some water issues. You know, plumbing is always an issue.
Yeah, always a fun issue.
yeah.
It's always great to come to church and realize, oh, there's another plumbing issue.
This
That's
one is
great.
not as major
No.
as the other ones, but we had some backup in some plumbing in the nursery. So we were cutting away some walls yesterday to get at that. And mostly resolved. We got to do some patchwork to cover up the holes we had to cut.
Fair enough.
And speaking of nursery, just know that we have another meeting room that is a part of the nursery now. And so we will use that for the kids on Sundays.
Yeah, so
and-
it'll be used by a lot of different groups in there. It
Yeah.
should get plenty of use,
Yep.
actually.
So it's like another meeting room that's in the nursery, but it's its own room now. And so if you are curious, you can always peek your head in there. The next time you're in the building, go into the nursery and look to the left a little bit. And you'll see a conference room in there now. And it should serve lots of groups, including our children. So that's exciting. But the water had nothing to do with that. It just,
There's always something.
there's always something.
Just always
Right.
something.
So we
Yes.
got that resolved. Oh, you got that great shot of me here. Look at that. I cut my own hair on Saturday.
Fancy.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years, but
Yeah.
but Saturday I finally got to the point where I was like, I got to do something here. So got her cut, and
Very nice.
should be good for the next month. So
Looking very
trim,
sporting. Yes.
trim. Yeah, I try to cut it pretty short actually. I have this like, let's talk about hair. I have
Do that.
I have this like baby fine hair that
Okay.
if you just see, like if I don't keep it short.
Let's get a close up on his hair,
Yeah,
please.
can we get a little bit closer?
No, I'm just kidding.
What's wrong? Eh? No.
Just kidding.
Cole jumps up in the back, and I'm like,
He
yeah,
would
we
have done
gotta do
it.
this.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
he would have done it.
But it literally can't do anything because it's so fine. Meaning it just. So honestly, the shorter the better. It's either that or I grow it out and get a perm. It's one of the two.
I'm sure they
So-
make some kind of product that would do really well on some baby fine
Fine
hair.
hair. Well, there is product in the hair just to get the part. I mean, seriously, that's how fine this hair is. My family members, they could comb their hair any way they want, and it would just stay that way.
It just stays there.
Yeah, like today I'm gonna have a part on this side, it stays. Tomorrow it's gonna be on that, it stays. Not this guy. So shorter the better.
Okay. Okay.
I get 3 weeks in, and it's like, even my wife says your hair's getting long. Even after like a month, she's like, I think it's time to cut your hair. She draws the
like
line.
that.
Yeah.
Draws the line.
So, anyways, got it cut. Did it. It's good. Had to get the old. I have one of those old school. Do you know Dust Busters? You familiar with a Dust
Yeah,
Buster?
I grew up with a dustbuster. I have not had one around
So we have a Dust
my
Buster.
life. Okay, but you have a
The
dustbuster.
difference between the old ones and the new ones is that they have a little cordless charger. So you plug it in and you just let it set it down, and it hangs on the wall.
Yeah.
And then you take it off and it does its thing. And it's built exactly the same way as they were like 30 years ago internally. There's like a little filter on
Yeah.
the paper filter thing
Yeah,
on the
I-
inside.
yeah.
It has not changed one bit. So, but after I cut my hair, the easiest thing to do is get out the dust buster and vacuum up the hair.
That's a
Isn't that exciting?
wow. Just a great deal.
But it goes back to this, Bray. It totally goes back to the fact that this last weekend you talked about being
Real people.
real people.
That's what.
And even talking about the fact that I use a dust buster and cut my own hair, what does that point to? It points to the fact that I'm just
Yeah, you're
I'm
not
a
some sort
regular-
of. People might think you're some sort of god as a pastor.
You know,
But
that I-
no, you use dustbusters and
You know,
you need your haircut as
you
well.
know that I fly Vidal Sassoon into the airport. I get on his plane. They block air traffic for a couple
Yes.
hours while I get my hair cut, and then he flies back to wherever he is. He still alive?
You know what? I'm not the authority on.
Philip, will you look up to tell me if Vidal Sassoon is still alive? I just made up a story here. I need to know if I just totally botched it. Yeah, we inquiring minds want to know. So yeah, I have a live research assistant right here in the studio,
Which is good. Yeah.
No, I'm just like just regular life stuff. Oh, Vidal Sassoon has not been with us since 2012. So
Okay.
yep, he's doing Jesus here now.
Yeah. So there you go.
I don't
There
think
you
he
go.
needs his hair done in heaven, just to be honest. I think it's probably always perfect, so.
Well, that's another question you could ask. Might be down the list on questions you
Yeah,
could
right.
ask.
Yeah,
when do you need to
it's-
cut the hair on your new
It's way below me
resurrected
talking
body?
to St. Paul and Moses, and then
Yeah.
we'll finally work our way down to Vidal Sassoon, like whose hair have you cut in heaven since you've been here,
Yeah.
right? So, so just real life. Yesterday, my stepdaughter came to town.
Oh,
So, as you know, Rachel and I have been married 21 years. We got married when the kids were all little, but just for clarity's sake, it's Rachel's daughter, but, I pretty much
but
raised
she's been
her,
around
yeah,
from
the beginning.
Yeah.
And she has a job where she can work remotely most of the time. So she decided she wanted to come down and see us for a little bit. So she is working from the guest room during the day, and then her and Rachel are doing stuff in the.
That's great.
Yeah, so
that's super fun.
we picked her up at the airport last night, and then they're doing some stuff later today. And one of the things, two things that are upcoming. One is we have that Breton Thunder show at 4:00
Breton
today
Thunder.
upstairs, not online.
That was
It's
really nice of them to
Invite us to a
invite people
kind of
to
a dress
come
rehearsal.
on down.
And then secondly, I mentioned this last week. I have a second interview, not for me, for somebody else, at Faith Lutheran junior senior high school. They're hiring a new executive director, and they've asked various contingencies, interest groups to come and meet the two candidates. I met one last week. I will go tonight and meet the other
So it
one.
was just one at a time. So it was meeting one
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
meeting another candidate.
So I'm going to go down and,
Okay.
and sit among. So the
Did
night-
they allow you to ask questions?
they
and-
did. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of fascinating. So you get into this room, and it's like this huge boardroom, like a boardroom with a table that fits like 25 people. Cole, have you ever been over in that executive business? Yes. You know what table I'm talking about? So Cole used to go to school there. Yeah. So I'm sitting at this table, and surrounding, I thought when they invited me, it was going to be like mostly pastors. It was not mostly pastors. It was mostly really big money sitting at that table.
Oh.
However,
Okay.
I can say unequivocally, as of last Tuesday when I went to the meeting, I was the only pastor and or human being in the room that was representing the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, of which this church is a part of.
That surprises me a little bit.
I literally felt like I was alone in that room.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I could have used stronger metaphors, but I don't think that's helpful. But I was like, I'm looking around and I'm like, I am the only Lutheran from our flavor of Lutheranism, let alone the other big money at the table. None of those folks are. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, that surprised me because we do have other ELCA
Yeah.
churches on the board.
That's right.
But,
That's right.
but yeah.
But they
well,
did.
I'm glad you were able to attend because
Yep.
that school is it's a wonderful school.
We have 6
And-
students currently from our congregation attending over there. And so it's not just that we have a place on the board, which we do. We have a board, part of their Board of Education. We have somebody, Lisa Riggleman's on that board, and we get to pick that person. But we have a vested interest having our own students and being on the board itself. So I figured I would take the time to be over there. And yes, I got to ask a hard-hitting question.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I asked him, does he like ELCA Lutherans? No, I did not ask that. I did say talk about grace, and that's what I even though they're doing an
Yeah.
executive director position, they represent the entire school.
Yeah, they do.
And I said, I need to know your position on grace, and I need you to talk about it.
Okay.
And so, if the opportunity arises tonight, I will do the same thing. Hence why I'm dressed up. I got a sport coat in the office. I'll be wearing a sport coat too, and kind of dress for a board type experience. So
Yeah.
I got that going.
No, it's
on.
good to stay in the loop with what the school is doing, and they're certainly reaching out to a lot of young people.
Yeah. It's the largest Lutheran junior senior high school in the United States. Lutheran, yeah, largest. So it's not like it's just some small thing. I mean, if you go over to the campus, it looks like one of the nicest junior college campuses you've ever seen, but it's a high school and junior and senior high school. So there's a lot of financial backing over there. So it's more than just a passing interest that we want to at least make our presence known, since we have a place on the board and we have an opportunity to have our voices heard. I figured we're going to be a part of that. So, yep. So going over there again this evening for the second round, and then it'll be done for the day. And but it tends to make for a long day when your last meeting begins at 7 across on the other side of town too, right? So, but other than that.
We're rolling along.
We're rolling along, and as you know, we just started going back over our mission statement, which I always think is a great refresher for us as a church family.
Come to and in the season of Easter as well. I mean, Easter as we look at Christ resurrected, and then leading out, commissioning the disciples. I mean, this is what we're commissioned into.
What are the primary things? The primary, Christ is risen, and our whole faith is based on that. And then secondly, so how do we live into that resurrection? Well, we live into that by understanding we're real people. We have an inclusive God who wants to give radical grace and also wants to grow us. I mean, to be on a path of inspired growth. It would be one thing to say, the first 3 of those things are true. God wants you to be real. He's going to welcome you. He wants to love on you. But then what, right? And you say, no, God wants to grow each of us. God doesn't want us to have the same Sunday school faith that we had when we were 5, that when we're 55.
It's not just about getting a membership card and calling it good.
And being done, right? Yeah. I affiliate, check the box, the end.
Yeah.
So when you think about this mission, and really when you think about the season Easter, it culminates with Pentecost. And guess what? God is inspiring them through the Spirit to go and grow, right? And stretch themselves. So we're in that same mindset. So I really like coming back to this once a year of us saying, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're about. We had a first-time guest with us. We often do, but we had a first-time guest I got to speak to last Sunday. And he had just moved here from Oregon, the state of Oregon. And he came out and he said, wow, which is I'm always gratified by that answer, but it's not the first time I've heard that answer.
It's really actually wonderful. I mean, as pastors, I think new visitors sometimes come seek us out, but just getting that chance to talk to new visitors and to have their enthusiasm, to see that, it's a wonderful thing.
And you know what I said to him, besides thank you for being here and we hope to see you again, the next thing I said to him is that, if you have a smartphone or a computer, I said, here's what I want you to do this week. I said, before you say, well, just the music alone, I said, I need you to go, believe it or not, I said, go to the What We Believe page. I want you to see what we believe in before you commit to anything. I always point people there. And I do it when we have a new member class and we have folks who have signed up for new member class. I have Susan send out a note for me saying, you know what, before you come to this class, I want you to know specifically of who we are and what we believe, because even Jesus said in a parable once, if a man builds a tower, doesn't he often count the cost before he starts building the tower? And so same thing. I was like, I'm glad you're happy, but I'm like, you need to know who we are and what we're about before you kind of jump in without knowing the cost. So hopefully he does that. We will see him again. But
I love that. Love hearing those stories.
We just want to be on top of and own our own identity here,
Yep.
and the fact that we're not hiding it or soft pedaling that is when we say that, and this is what I'm preaching on this weekend, is when we say that God welcomes all. That's what we mean by that.
Welcomes and includes
There's no
all
asterisk,
people.
there's no fine print, and on the flip side of that, I'm going to talk about that this weekend. If you don't believe that, and if you want to be a gatekeeper, then you can go be a gatekeeper somewhere else. I mean, it's just that.
This is
it's
who we are. This is our
just
mission statement.
Just
This
the
is-
honest truth.
Yeah.
If you think church should be a country club, there are other churches out there that believe like that. We're not those people, and nor will we ever be those people. So, just kind of got to get that off my chest. Gotta.
It's true though. Like church can become that.
Yep.
And we want to stand for something different.
That's exactly right, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So this past weekend, we had this amazing song that was sung at 11 o'clock, and kind of fun story is our palace administrator, Dennis Allen, had heard this song, and he said, and he immediately sent it to Robbie Wingfield and said, "This is an amazing song, and we should do it sometime." Well, clearly Robbie agreed because
Here it
we
is.
debuted it this weekend. It is a beautiful song. So let's take a listen, and we will talk about it when we come back.
I'm at the end of myself and I'm tired. I've tried all that I know to do. Right now it's just by a thread, but I'm hanging on to you. I'm running out of hope. I need a miracle. And if I ever needed you, it's right now. Oh God, I'm desperate, down on my knees. Send help from heaven, 'cause that's what I need. Redeem this wreckage, restore my peace. I'm not asking, I'm begging. Lord, come through for me. I need heaven and I'm desperate, desperate. Oh, I need heaven and I prayed all the prayers I can pray, but I won't stop them knocking till you open the door. You can move a mountain, you can calm a storm. I know you can, 'cause I've seen it before. Oh God, I'm desperate, down on my knees. Send help from heaven, 'cause that's what I need. Redeem this wreckage, restore my peace. I'm not asking, I'm begging. Lord, come through for me. I need heaven and I'm desperate, desperate. Oh, I need heaven and I'm desperate, desperate. Oh, I need heaven and I'm and you're my only hope. I need a miracle, and if I ever needed you, it's right now. Oh God, I'm desperate, down on my knees. Send help from heaven, 'cause that's what I need. Redeem this wreckage, restore my peace. I'm not asking, I'm begging, Lord. Happy Mother's Day.
So written by or performed by, I don't know if it was written by, but it was certainly performed by Jamie McDonald.
Okay.
And she is fairly new to the Christian contemporary music. She's only been performing since 2014, so not too long.
Okay.
But this song, released in January. I mean, this is
It's a new song.
brand new, hot off the presses. And believe it or not, it was #1 on the Christian Adult Contemporary chart. So this song you just heard is a #1 hit within the Christian circles. So I don't think that is the last time you will hear that song in our
It's
church.
beautiful.
Yeah, really
Beautiful.
like it. And I think there is something about getting to the end of your rope. There's lots of different ways that individuals kind of get to the end of what they can do,
And there's something that happens in those moments.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
if you're
it's-
open to it.
If you're open to it, and that's the thing. But so many people in the Bible, their biblical story really starts kind of at the end of the rope, and then choosing to let go and turn to God in that moment.
And not that we wrote it down, but when you say it like that, the first thing that pops into my head is that moment when the people are at the Red Sea. The army is at their back, the water's at their front. The people are complaining, and Moses goes, "Okay, God, like, this is real trouble." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Would you quit talking and just start moving the people towards the water?" Hadn't even told him yet what he was going to do. He's just like, "Okay, you're at the end of your rope. Now you got to trust me." He said, "Start moving people towards the water." And then he said, "Then raise your hands to let the water separate." And, even the Syrophoenician woman at the end of her rope heard that Jesus was in town. He's from out of country because Phoenicia, and so he's from Israel. Hears that this miracle worker is in town on a beach holiday because that was on the coast.
And I mean, she could have sung this song. I mean, the
She's
lyrics here.
desperate,
I need a
knocking on
miracle, and if I ever needed you, it's right now.
That's right. And Jesus comes through. Or what you were talking about this weekend, the Roman centurion's servant. Roman centurion was desperate. And you're right about that because you were reflecting on this, is if this servant was just a servant, dime a dozen, you die, I refill the position, whatever. There was something more here. There was relationship.
There was. There must have been.
Had to have been. If even with what you'd call a power differential, centurion servant, but this man cared enough to go ask Jesus for help, setting down his title, his authority as a centurion, and saying, "I need your help." Which, takes humility to do when you're in a position of power.
It does. You don't see it all that often.
No.
Yeah.
Where somebody is willing to defer to somebody else who already feels like or could feel like, well, I'm the most important.
Yeah, this
thing.
person's beneath me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that centurion doesn't do that. He goes and asks for help in a humble way, and puts all that down, which is about being real, which you talked about, and Jesus is like, "Sure, I'll do it, but let's go." And the Roman centurion in that story was like, and we didn't deal with that because that wasn't the heart of what you were talking
Right.
about. He's like, "You don't even need to come to my house." He's like, "I know what it means to be in leadership, and if I tell somebody to do something, it gets done, and I don't have to supervise. I don't have to micromanage." He said, "So if you just say, my guy's going to be healed, that's good enough for me because, I trust you."
Yeah.
And then Jesus says, "This guy's got more
That's faith.
faith than the people who live in the country and who are Jewish and are, the insiders." He's like, "This guy's got more faith than you, and he just came to me and probably doesn't even believe in God," right? Like,
But he was open.
He was
and
open.
And he turned to Jesus in that
Yeah.
moment, in his desperate moment.
right. Which goes back to that thing I was mentioning last week. I mentioned in service is God loves honesty.
Yep.
Like, it's not about, do you have the correct belief? Are you going to synagogue enough? Do you know the Bible? God loves honesty and draws close to that. And so, even in moments of desperation, to just name it and not keep it bottled up, I think that is huge. And I was so touched by this Bible verse last week. I'm gonna begin with one we talked about last week.
Okay.
This one's been ringing around in my head since Thursday, and I was thinking about it during worship this weekend. I came and immediately I'm like, I'm coming back to this. Psalm 103, verse 13 and 14. Read it last Thursday. It's a psalm of David, and in this he writes this about God. He said, "As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who revere him. For God knows how we are formed, and he remembers that we are dust." It's like I'm plowing over the same ground here, the same dust again, right?
But yeah, what if we took time to some of these verses that I mean, this isn't one that it doesn't show up all that often, so I love that we come back to it. But even some of these verses that we do come back to, what if we just took time to like hear this again, let it sink in, see what that's saying right there.
Yeah, God knows that we are a part of the created order, and He doesn't put on the same expectation on us that you might be putting on yourself. Because like you're dust, you're human, you're created. I get it. You're not going to be perfect. And God would be like, yeah, believe me, I know you're not perfect. So stop trying to hide it from me. Stop trying to hide your troubles and your struggles and your pain and your desperation and just name it. I want to have compassion on you. It's almost as if God has limited himself to say, you know what? If you don't want to open up to me, I'm not going to make you. But at the same time, I can't do much for you until you're willing to open your heart to me.
Yeah.
Not that God is mad, not that God is withholding because he's playing a game, but God's like, some of this depends on you to be open about stuff, to be real, to name the things that he's like, that's when I can start helping you. But if you want to hold it all in or build a facade or wear a mask or whatever it is, it's like, I can't do anything with that. So if you just acknowledge that you're dust, that you're part of the creator, that you're not perfect, not to shame you, but just to say, express your need for God, and then God shows up. Yeah. And so this verse continues to bounce around in my head and in my heart, and that's why I wanted to bring it back today. And it wasn't for a lack of other things. It was just like this one's still pinging around, right? For he knows.
I love that. You know, God's still doing something with that.
Yeah.
And
for he knows how we are formed. He remembers that we are dust. Yeah. And that's not a shame thing. It's just like, look, God created all of this. He knows you better than you know yourself. Look, he wants to have compassion on those who revere him. And so I don't need to have it all together all the time. I don't.
Right.
You know, I can be me. Amen. And when I can name it, God shows up. Now let's go to another psalm here. This is when David was in a cave. I don't know which cave.
He's in caves a few different times.
I don't know if this is the bathroom cave story.
There are those.
There's more than one
too.
cave.
There's more than one cave.
Yeah, right. I don't know if it's that cave, but he's on the run.
He's on the run.
We know that.
Yes.
And you talk about being desperate. That David writes a song about being desperate, and it's not the only place where he writes a song about being desperate, mind you. We could go to that Psalm 51 we talked about
looking
last
at David's
week.
story, he had plenty of moments where it looked like he was all over.
That's right.
End of his rope.
Yep.
So this is from Psalm 142, beginning in verse 5. I cry to you, O Lord. I say, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Listen to my cry, for I am in desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. Set me free from my prison, that I may praise your name. Then the righteous will gather about me because of your goodness to me.
I mean, there are times, not, well, for some, but for me, metaphorically, you feel like you're in prison, like you have no options, like you're stuck, right? And so that word jumped out at me when David's like, set me free from my prison. He wasn't in prison, but he definitely felt stuck when he's on the run, hiding in caves. His options and opportunities are limited. And so he feels it, and he's just calling out to God. He's like, Lord, I need your help because listen to this. I am in desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. Let's just rephrase that. God, I need your help because my problems are bigger than I can solve. I mean, he's talking about being on the run from people, which is a problem because they are chasing him. But you don't have to read it that way. You can see that David's saying, my problems are too big for me to solve.
Yep, that's it.
And that's about as real as you get in a prayer. You know what? I can't fix this. Lord, help me fix this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of that being real peace. And but it only comes when you're desperate. Not that you want desperation, but if you can handle it, you will handle it. That there's this moment when, and you were mentioning this at the beginning, that God will show up when we're at the end of our rope if we ask for it. Yeah. And the other thing I find really fascinating about that is that God uses those moments of desperation, whether individually or in groups, to bring people to bring comfort and strength together. I mean, you think about, go back all the way back to 9/11 here at this church.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 24 years ago now, but what happened with the national tragedy, the national fear, and the emptiness, kind of like, what's going on? We had a prayer service the day after 9/11. Well, it was the 13th because we had to get the word out. Today we could do it just via social media and, same day kind of stuff. But back then we had to let people know we were going to do this prayer service. So on Thursday night we had a prayer service here because that was on a Tuesday. And the place was filled. People looking for answers, looking for comfort, looking for something. And so even God can use those ungodly moments to pull people together.
Yeah.
And to find strength in one another and to make people know you're not alone in this. And so desperation can be a catalyst for a place where God will do some amazing things. Not that you want that to happen, to be in that place, but it's not like you get to that place and God's like, I'm out of here, right? Like that's where God shows up really strongly,
so,
right?
Yeah. And it's okay for, when we're at those desperate times to lean into that. As a church, to lean into those moments as well.
That's right.
Whether that's September 11th or the October 1st shooting
that's
here.
Right. So you think about it this way, because I'm going to use your words against you now. No, I'm kidding. At the beginning of your sermon, you talked about the theology of glory.
Yeah.
Where the theology of glory is, if you're doing good, then God is blessing you, which then leaves the corollary. If you're not doing good, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong, and you are not blessed.
Right.
Hence, some of the old Pharisaical theology of the time of Jesus, which he poo-pooed. That was a line my mom used to say, poo-poo.
Poo-pooed.
I'm poo-pooing that.
Yeah, I think moms say that.
Have you ever heard that?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, and like the blind man, like who sinned?
Yes.
Was it him or his parents? So that is a theology of glory that says, well, when you're doing things right, you're blessed, but when you do something wrong, you're cursed or there's something wrong. But the theology of the cross is that God shows up in moments of desperation, that God doesn't abandon when you're at your lowest, Like, I only want, God's like, I only want to hang out with you when you're partying, right? Like, old life is good. No, 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 no. The theology of the cross tells us that God's willing to show up in the dark moments. And that's really some of the most powerful work that God does, is when you realize you're not alone and you will never be alone. He's going to walk with you, which really carries into every one of us in our final moments. God shows up to take us home.
Yeah.
Or God sends someone on his behalf to take us home, right? And so that's what the theology of the cross is like. And so there's David saying, man, my problems are too big for me, and so I need your help. And then he says, then the righteous will gather about me because of your goodness to me. Meaning when God's at work, guess what? There's other faithful people around. And I dig that.
Yeah.
So, no, there's not a third psalm today, but something from Micah.
Micah.
So Micah,
the book of Micah.
Micah is a prophet from the same time as Isaiah.
So, which goes back a ways.
Yeah,
Yes.
like 700 years.
Yes.
But they weren't like, when you think about the prophets, you think each of them had their own time. Well, some of them did, but some of them overlapped, like Isaiah and Hosea and Micah, like we're all in the same
Yeah.
time. And so the time of Isaiah and Micah was the time that the northern kingdom had split off. The Assyrians had come down and wiped out 2/3 of the nation of Israel. So all that was left was Judah, which is Jerusalem and south, down to the coast. And so they were worried about the Assyrians just kind of keep going south and take out everything. So it was a time of a great uncertainty. Isaiah spent most of his time in Jerusalem dealing with the leaders, the kings, like King Hezekiah and groups like that, where Micah was more rural, so he was kind of pointing at Jerusalem kind of separately, not working with those leaders, but like, hey guys, you need to pull this stuff together, right? So, and you know that line in Joshua, where Joshua is near the end of his life, and this is like, Joshua's the guy that came after Moses to lead the people into the promised land. You remember,
Okay.
you know Joshua.
Yeah.
Joshua and Caleb. So Joshua's in the end of his life, and he says, choose for yourself this day whom you will serve. He said, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You know, it's kind of well known,
It is.
right?
It's a powerful line.
So Micah says something like that in Micah 7:7.
Okay.
So like, life's not perfect, life's a struggle, and he says this is kind of like a defiant message of hope in an uncertain time. So maybe this is for us too. He says, but as for me, I watch in hope for the Lord. In other words, I'm not keeping an eye on all the other junk. I'm keeping an eye on what God's doing. I will watch in hope for the Lord. I will wait for God, my Savior. And then he says this, my God will hear me. So there's a lot of stuff you can focus
I
in
love
on,
that.
right?
Yeah. And he doesn't say it as, he says it with power and I would say influence, but he's not, this is your choice.
Yeah.
But look at the direction I'm heading.
I'm going to keep my eyes on God, right? And like I said, you can keep an eye on all the bad news out in the world. You can focus in on your favorite 24-hour news channel and be drugged down by the ugliness that's out there. But then there's Micah who says, you know what? That's still going to be out there. But I'm just going to keep my eyes focused on what God's up to. And that's where my hope is, know. So I think that's good word for us today. So we're glad that you've joined us. We hope you have a good rest of your day. No Bible study tomorrow because we did that last week, and it'll be next week. So we'll see you again here on Thursday. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. God bless you. We love you, and we'll see you soon. Right?
Okay.
Philip, will you play us out?